Just in case.
I agree.
Okay. So, hey y'all.
Hey.
I'm Melanie. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how the brain works. We're going to talk about the demons that come into play when we're looking at running for office or doing anything that requires us to level up in some way. We're going to look at all of the thoughts and fears around that, and then I'm going to show you how to handle each one. And then I'm going to show you how to handle them all like at the root so that we get right to this is my self-belief issue, right? You want to go ahead? So, this is me. Hey. So, I am a master certified life coach. I've been doing this about 3 years, working in different areas and started with breast cancer survivors because I am one. And then the election happened and I went, oh my God, everybody around me is freaking out and suffering with, emotional and mental trauma and PTSD, which is not unlike a cancer diagnosis. And a lot of people are like, what? When I say that, but yeah, the emotions are the same. So the election happened, I switched to helping my fellow resistors to manage their mindsets and become more resilient and become more confident if they wanted to run. And now I'm working with all kinds of folks, but especially folks who are running for office. So I'm also a dirty Earl Grey enthusiast. Has anybody ever heard of that?
No.
So you take a regular cup of coffee and add your tea bag of Earl Grey. It is magic. It is amazing. It is my favorite thing ever. So I was like, what else do you want to know about me? That's super fun. Yeah. So what we're going to do, I'm going to talk a little bit about how our brains work, and then I gave you some handouts, a handout, and we are going to be a little interactive here. So I'm going to ask you to work. We're going to coach a little bit today so that you get a feel for what it's like. We get deep into what are you afraid of, what's happening. But first, let's talk about how our brains actually work. So we are all born with like a personality, right? We all come with this default programming. And then as we grow and experience the world around us up until about we're 15 or 16, some of us 20, 21, we get coded into us from other people. So what do they think is possible for us? What do they believe about who we are? Like, oh, you're so smart, you're so strong, you're so sassy, aren't you the best little athlete? Aren't you bossy? Aren't you right? All of these things that other people put on us, we just absorb like a sponge because we don't know anything different. And then we also have the things that happen to us that we make mean something about us, and the environment too. So this includes things that might be said about us. Things that we say about ourselves tend to come from what other people say about us first. The meanings that we make out of situations, and the thoughts that we choose to believe about ourselves. And the thing is, for most people, they don't upgrade. And so these programs are still running. They're still running in the back of your mind when you think about, oh, I'm going to do this big scary thing I've never done. And your brain's like, wait a minute, I have 800 pieces of evidence that shows that you cannot do that. So bye. No, don't even try that. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about meaning making. And I'm kind of a neuroplasticity, neuroscience, brain science nerd. So I'm trying to keep this high level. If I get in the weeds, be like, I don't get it. What's up? But essentially, what happens in our brain is that what wires together fires together. And what I mean by that is that our brains tell us that when X happens, Y and Z are also true or inevitable, right? And so knowing that, hey, Mr. Cat, okay, be good. Knowing that, we come from caves, right? We're still like cave people, way deep in the recesses of our head, and our cat. Our society has advanced much, much faster than our brains have. And so there are parts of us that still have this lingering dark cave equals saber-toothed tiger and death. And today it might be running for office equals everyone's going to see me and judge me and I might die. Whether we have the actual thought I might die or not. Our brain is like in fight or flight, right? But the same thing is also true, and this is how we create habits and why it's so hard to break habits, is that Friday night might equal dinner plus ice cream plus your favorite sports game. Do that for 2 years, and then try to go on a diet and take away the ice cream. And your brain is going to crave ice cream or sweets or something salty or say something's missing. And you go on this like hunt for what is missing and what can I fill this hole in, because you've removed a piece of the programming. So the way that we can extrapolate that out is that bigger issues like criticism, like failure, like imperfection, tend to become equal to, I'm a loser. I'm not good enough. I should just give up and go home. And so when these things fire together long enough, it becomes who we believe we are. So here's some common meanings that we make. So failure might be, you can't do it, you suck, nobody likes you, you should give up. That's my brain's favorite one, is like, oh, you tried for half a second, you should totally give up now. It's done, you're done. You had a whole half a second. I'll give you 30 seconds, oh gosh. Social situations, if you have anxiety in social situations, like so many of us, right? You don't belong here, you're an idiot, nobody cares what you have to say, you don't have anything to say, you should just go home. And public speaking, which I know is like, some people, they fear that more than death, right? You don't know what you're talking about. You're gonna mess up, everybody thinks you're stupid. You're catching shenanigans again. Everybody thinks you're stupid, right? What if you mess up? What if you don't have anything to say? What if you stall? What if you freeze? Oh God, right? So, the point I'm making here is that the thoughts that you think for a long time become your beliefs, and that's all that beliefs are. Just things that you thought for a really long time. And then your beliefs become your identity, and how you identify yourself and who you think you are. And a really great example that I'm working on shifting is I, for a very long time, did not believe that I was a morning person. And the truth is that, like, I love to get up before everybody else, before the sun comes up, hear the birds chirping, have some coffee. Like, it's so quiet. It's almost like when it snows and everything's like just blanketed. But my brain would very much like to stay in bed. And so when I get up and I'm groggy and I don't feel good and I've actually had too much sleep, I'm like, I don't like mornings. Somebody give me some coffee. I hate this. It sucks. I want to go back to bed. Not my to-do list, right? So being able to shift that and say, oh, actually, I really love mornings. What if I am a morning person? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about identity shifting. So, and I don't mean, these are things that we believe about ourselves. I don't mean things that are provable in a court, right? I am short. I am 5'2". Short is objective. Depends on who you're talking to. 5'2", I can prove in a court, right? Okay. So our identity is based on what we believe about ourselves, and that comes from our default programming. And when the identity that you have is in conflict with the one that you want, there is cognitive dissonance. And I love to call that mind drama, because it's really just your brain freaking the hell out. And so if you are who you are today, and you have the belief, I could never run for office, I could never be a public person, I'm scared, everybody's gonna look at me, and then you have this dream, but I want to, your brain is gonna throw all of these beliefs in the way, all of this cognitive dissonance in the way. So we often lessen that dissonance by not doing the thing, or by self-sabotaging and saying, yeah, see, I told you so, this is who I am, can't do it. Go ahead. So, who you are being now, and who you want to be, right? And then what's in the middle is cognitive dissonance. And I put these lines here because every single one of those is a belief standing between where you are now and where you want to be. And I put an asterisk on who you are being now. And I don't mean who you are now. So what I mean by doing that is that when we can loosen the brain's thought, because I am is solid, right? I am being loosens that just up just a little bit. It's kind of similar to I am, let's say, I am confident, right? If we're using today's example. If that's not something you can believe right now, you might have to baby step it with, I believe it's possible that I can be confident. I'm becoming someone who's confident. And so who you are being right now is fluid. It's possible to change that. And knowing that is like big first step. Okay. So that cognitive dissonance, if there is too much, we self-sabotage. And what that ultimately means is that we choose safety over growth and comfort over fear. And it can look like, maybe I'll run, maybe I won't. Maybe not this year, maybe in 5 years. maybe never. I don't know. Let me think about it some more. It might look like, oops, I waited too late to file the papers and now, oh well, I can't. I missed a deadline. It might look like hiding and running away because fight or flight, right? And it often just looks like doing the opposite of what you want. And sometimes in extreme cases, it can look like extreme acting out. And what I mean by that is my older brother was going through this cognitive dissonance phase, and he was trying to leap to this next version of him that he wanted to be. And he got real frustrated and got mad and got on his jet ski and like zoomed around on the waves and knocked himself out and broke his shoulder. It was like, you totally just did that to yourself. Why? Like, he's the king of self-sabotage. But in the end, the result is that you prove your original default programming beliefs to yourself. That continues the cycle of reaching and faltering, and then blaming yourself and beating yourself up and saying so. Any questions about this first? How are we doing? Okay, awesome. I love that you have cat friend. He's like stuck in focus.
Cat.
Cat monkey. Okay, so neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change itself. So our brains are changeable. New thoughts create new beliefs, which create new identities. And by choosing new thoughts, we can rewire to create who we want to be. We can create a new version of ourselves. And you literally can do this every single day, anytime you want. I do this all the time and I love it. It's so good. Okay. So, my point here, overarching, is self-belief is the most important thing that you can cultivate. Because if voters are going to believe in you, you have to believe in you first. You have to believe that you can make the change that they want for them to ever buy into you. For you to ever stand in front of a room and say, yes, I got you. So, interactive part-time. What scares you about running? Who here's afraid to run Roberts? Me. Okay. Are all of you actually going to run? Make decisions. Not so sure. Who is not ever going to run for office? Why?
I'd rather work on a campaign.
Why?
I don't suffer fools, and I think I would tick everybody off before the campaign was over and get one vote, me.
I understand. I see you. My foul mouth is what keeps me from, like, I'm keeping it cool right now. I'm the queen of bad moms, so. Okay, so what actually scares you about running? Anyone who's considering? Just shout them out. Go ahead.
I'll be happy to share. So I'm on the school board, but I was voted in. I didn't have to run. So when I was faced with the opportunity to be a school board member, it was write a letter of application and a short bio, and then I had to give a 3-minute presentation in front of the board. And I was terrified. I mean, it was 4 horrible days, and I was terrified, but I thought, well, at least this is 4 horrible days, not 4 horrible months. So yeah, I'm terrified of it. And so my seat is up because I was filling in for a board member who had to leave due to illness. So my seat is up for election next year. It's District 2, so Board of Education. And so close to the end of the 1st of March, qualifying will happen, and then the local election will be May 2020. So, a year from now, I would be in the thick of a campaign, and yeah, I'm absolutely terrified.
But why?
It's public speaking. Yeah, can't specifically debates.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely terrifying.
Okay.
But it was funny because 2 slides ago, I've been like, well, you know what? I'll just leave town and be qualifying, and then this is what I'm saying. Like, I'll just miss the deadline. I'll just have to I just go out of town for work. What? Qualifying deadline passed? Oh no.
Oops.
Yeah. Oh, I've run through the whole gamut.
All of the possible excuses. Yeah. What else?
Letting people down. Something like you're making like an error that you made kind of hurts others or something.
How could you let people down? What might happen?
Maybe something I didn't see, or maybe I didn't work hard enough, or a gaffe or goofing up or something like that.
So you might lose.
Well, yeah, but for a reason.
I guess I'm asking.
For a
like,
reason that I did.
What would make people have a feeling about you? What would make people have that feeling about you? That you might let them down? How would they feel let down?
I don't know, just run a weak campaign and then everyone's like, oh man, could have won if you suck so much.
Okay, hang on to that one. Yes.
In talking to people, just the sheer amount of money I would need to raise is very intimidating.
Okay.
And I have been trying to figure out a path to raise that amount of money, and I haven't been able to, and I don't feel like I could run a very strong campaign without figuring that part out before I said, yes, I'm running. That's like leaping off the cliff without knowing how to fly, so to speak.
Gotcha.
I'm kind of an extroverted introvert,
Mm-hmm.
and
Hey, fellow introvert has
it would be kind of a lot nicer just to stay home and not have to
Sure.
go interact with all the people that I don't know.
Yeah. That's like our
I mean,
safety,
it's
like
kinda
fail safe,
overwhelming.
get back in the cave. You know, it's safer in your own cave, not out there, right?
Yeah.
Who else?
The fundraising component of it, and then leaving the safety net of a job.
Yeah.
And a pension, and all that goes with that, and the responsibilities personally for bills and whatnot, so.
Last one. Anybody else? Yes.
Losing my money and wasting my time.
How could you lose your money and waste your time?
Well, you have to pay $600 to qualify, okay? And basically, when I thought about it, I said, I'd be lucky to get 1,000 votes out of 30,000 registered voters. So I said, this isn't worth my money, this isn't worth my time. But that was last year.
Okay. And then how could it be not worth your time that you might lose?
No, I mean, I'm in Oconee County, so that's not, anyway. There's like 2/3 of the people in the county are Republicans, and 1/3 are confused or Democrats,
Right.
or don't vote.
They're blue and confused, right?
So, you know, you have to choose your battles in that
Sure.
situation.
Okay. Next slide. So, here are the most common fears about money. And they're a little bit different for men and women, which is interesting. Not qualified enough. I don't know enough. Not smart enough. Might make mistakes. Might let other people down, right? And then there's the external, right? The criticism, the trolls, the haters, the death threats for some people, which is unfortunate. Visibility, being a public persona, public speaking. And then I think everybody's like, real fear is fundraising. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I did not add the slides for today, but we are going to talk about it. Okay, go ahead. So, I like to call this the high drama. So, we're going to talk about all of, or most of those fears, and give you some clues on how to manage your way around them. So, go ahead.
This reminds me that Game of Thrones is on this evening.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is at 9 o'clock. So the inner critic is the first one. So this is kind of our default programming. And it's also what other people have said about us that tends to run in the back of our minds that frankly talks shit about us all the time, right? Go ahead. Can I say, is that cool with y'all? I'm ready to say shit about
We're on the same.
Let's just be authentic here. So like this is basically me from like 3 years ago. And I had in my mind all of these really awful things that I would say to myself to the point of suicidal ideation. And it was just such an unhealthy place. But what I discovered is that having that inner critic voice constantly like needling you and poking you is so unhelpful, right? So we want to talk about who your inner critic is. And I would love for y'all to think about if you could identify the voice that you hear, you think it's your own. It's probably not. It might be an amalgamation of family people that you grew up with, or a teacher who told you that you'd never finish high school or college. What are your thoughts? I can tell you who mine are. Mine are my grandmother, who is, bless her, she means well, but she's the most hypercritical person I've ever met in the world. And the other is my dad, who would absolutely just belittle everything I had to say. And so I grew up believing that my voice was not important, I was gonna say the wrong thing anyway, and people were gonna laugh at me, because that's what my dad would do. I would have an opinion, I would stand my ground, and he would just laugh, and it's like, like, let's just hide, like, forget it, never mind. So I wanna know, if you could identify the voice that you hear the most, that is the most critical in your head, whose is it? Feel free to shout out.
I hate to say that it's my dad because I absolutely love and adore my dad. He's my hero. He saved me. But he also, it's sort of like, it's like a not rock the boat mentality, and that's probably where my fear of debates, right, is coming from. Like, don't start conflicts, don't rock the boat, don't be too loud, don't be too opinionated, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Who else? Who's your inner critic?
Frankly, I think mine's my own voice. I think I'm kind of a perfectionist, and so I have certain expectations of myself, so I like my own worst enemy. I don't really think it's because of anything anyone else ever really said. I mean, I think it's my own expectations, like wanting to please, but not because my parents said you have to do X or Y. I think they just,
They never demanded or had a high expectation.
I mean, I think I produced at a certain level, so I don't think that they, but I think that was generated by me. I don't really think it was generated by them.
Sometimes it can come from something as simple as, you're so smart. Who do you want to be? What do you want to be when you grow up? Like Audrey B. Like, I have a niece who, like, at 5 is brilliant, and now she's 22, but I can see this pattern of perfectionism behavior over time from all of us being like, oh my God, you're so smart. You're so awesome. What do you want to do when you grow up? Who do you want to be? You have so much potential. You're going to be this, this, and this. And like, now she's just like, yeah. Anybody else?
My mother.
What does that voice say?
You just need to stay where you're at. Stay calm. Don't you.
Why? What will happen?
You might do something wrong. She's just really good. I feel it is.
Yeah.
So there's certain things I just don't tell her.
Yeah,
I don't tell her what I'm doing today.
You won't tell her either.
No, and she's very Republican. It's all right. You got 2 little daughters. It's cool.
My grandmother's the same way. Very, she comes from a very authoritarian structure, right?
And I'm female on top of that, so she's got very distinct roles about what females should and shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Okay, thanks. So, here is the first thing that you can do for your inner critic. And that is to visualize it as a person. Y'all seen Harry Potter? Pretty much everybody? Okay. So remember the scene where they were fighting the boggart? And he comes out of the closet and it's Snape dressed up as Neville's grandmother? And everyone's laughing? And it takes like all of the fear and the weight out of it? That's essentially this exercise. So, you visualize it as a person. And I like to visualize my grandmother as Napoleon, because her nickname in our family, our whole family, like the whole extended family, is the Little General, because she's about this tall and she is the queen bee, and everybody does what she says, and she bosses everybody around, and they just, yep, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and they just do the thing, right? So I dress her up in my mind as Napoleon, and then shrink her down so that she can fit in the palm of my hand. And she is welcome to storm around all she wants. And all I can hear is just tiny little squeak noises. And so when my inner critic is really freaking out, and I can stop and take a breath and identify, okay, this is my grandmother, time to do the thing. I take a nice deep breath, hold out my hands, and visualize. Shrink her down, itty bitty, and then I tell her thank you. Because I'm not trying to force her away. And I don't want to judge her, because she is an internalized part of me. And I'm not trying to tell her to fuck off. I actually just want to say thank you. Because when we can see and acknowledge and thank this part of us, we can see that it's just trying to keep us safe. This is just our fear brain, our caveman brain, saying, get back in the cave. Don't go out there, they're saber-tooth tigers. And when we can acknowledge and have compassion for this part of ourselves, just like Neville defeating Snape as his grandmother, it just lessens all of the stress and the pressure around it and helps us to stay grounded and centered and focused. And then what I like to do is give her a job. So she loves to make quilts. So I'll shrink her down, take a deep breath, say thank you, and then I'll ask her, like mentally, like I'm just sort of mentally like telling her to go sit in the chair. Like, appreciate you, go make meal cool, go have fun, go do something entertaining for you. I got shit to do. How many thoughts about that? Any thoughts, any questions? Does that sound crazy? It's totally fine if it does.
It doesn't sound crazy to me. It'll take some work to figure out to figure out that process. Like, what is that for me? You have a specific, yeah, what is that for me?
Yeah, and sometimes if it's us, we can see that part of us as like a feral child who's just ranting and rageless, right? I would dress my dad up as a clown because he would so be offended by that. But I'm not trying to hurt his feelings, I'm trying to make myself laugh. How do you think you would dress up your dad?
I don't know. I really don't. I think that'll take some thought.
You could put some roller skates on him. Be like, good luck. Skate around, have fun. Okay. So another head of the Hydra is external criticism. And I think most of us fear that quite a bit. What are people going to say about me? What are they going to think about me? What are they going to say to me or to other people? Are there going to be online haters and trolls? Yes, there will be. It's okay. You're not going to. Okay. So when criticism hurts the most, it's because it resonates with what we already believe about ourselves. Otherwise, if somebody were to say to me, I think your green lipstick is ugly, I'd be like, hi, I don't have green lipstick, what are you talking about? But if they said to me, like, your Bob lipstick is ugly, I'd be like, but I'm cute, right? And so knowing, I think, that it's gonna come, no matter what. That there are going to be people who don't like what you have to say. There are going to be people who don't like your hair, or your makeup, or what you're wearing, or they don't think you're professional enough, or they don't think, whatever the fuck they think. If we can remember that it's not really about us, and focus on not taking it personally. And what I mean by that is looking at criticism as an opportunity to grow. So what I actually do when someone criticizes me is I have a thought about, okay, either that's painful or it's not, because I either believe some of it or I don't. Okay, if it hurts my feelings, why? What about it here is true? What about it here is true that I don't want to look at? Can I look at it anyway? What if I just decided not to believe what they had to say about me today? What if I could put their thoughts about me in a corner, in a chair in a corner, right? So, and I also want to back up and say, it depends on who you are hearing criticism from and how much you are going to weight that. So Brene Brown talks about the arena, right? And what she means by the arena are the people who are out there busting their butts, falling down all the time, getting hurt, showing up, being in public, being seen. The people in the cheap seats, their opinions don't need to matter very much. And they don't. They aren't paying the price to actually be in the middle of the arena getting their asses handed to them. But the people around you who are in the arena, who are showing up, who are taking big risks to put themselves out there, those are people you could weight a little bit heavier, right? Like, I care more about what, if I'm running for office, I care more about what someone else who's running for office has to say to me about what I'm doing than I do even my grandmother. She has no idea what she's talking about. I'm not gonna listen to her at all.
That's a hard distinction to make.
Sure. Our brain wants to weight them all equally.
Yeah.
And it's not at all what you want to do. So, where's it coming from? What do I believe about this that is hurting my feelings, if it's hurting my feelings? Where is it true? Where is this a place that I can grow? And to me, that is like the biggest question that I ask myself every single day, no matter what kind of day I'm having. What can I learn here? What can I use to grow? And then discard the rest. And sometimes that looks like taking a big deep breath in the middle of a really stressful situation, right? And sometimes it looks like being with yourself for a few minutes to ask your brain, how do you want to process this? Are you going to make this mean something about you? So, what are you making it mean? So, when somebody criticizes you, what is your, and you might know off the top of your head, but you might not. What is your like default program setting when somebody criticizes you? What's your defense?
Clap back.
They're right.
Well, they must be right. They must know me better than I do. What else?
I'm very defensive.
Yeah. Why? What are you making it mean about you?
It's like an attack on me and what I've done or something like that. So, like, if I criticize, like, my girlfriend, for instance, my immediate thing is, like, I'm gonna feel like she's being ungrateful for all the many other things that I do or something like that, and that I'm not getting enough credit for what I'm doing and I'm being attacked unfairly or something like that.
But it's essentially like the heart of it is I'm being attacked.
Yeah.
I would say I internally get angry that they are making such a judgment with so little information about me. That would be.
So what do you ultimately make it mean about you? Or does it stay external, like, well, they're just wrong?
No, it doesn't. I mean, there's, a kernel of truth to it, but it's, I wasn't active enough in the community, and I can't go back in time, and I've been active enough in the community, and so all I can do is, from this point forward, be as active as I can. And so I try to take what you're saying and grow.
Yeah.
Realizing that, none of us can go back in time and do things differently.
Of course.
So,
But your growth is that you're doing it now.
yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Right.
But it still makes me angry that they judge me based on so little. They don't necessarily know that I haven't done anything
Right.
in the past.
So you're making it mean you don't know me and what I've done.
Even though they're right.
Also, maybe I haven't done enough.
Yeah.
So
It is.
here's the thing that I like to do. This is a question that I like to ask myself pretty much every day. Again, like I do all of this work all day long. For myself, for other clients, but 100% for myself. Like I probably spend 2 hours a day working on my own brain every day. And this is a question that I ask. It's like I had somebody send me something on Facebook the other day that was like, hey, I think you did such and such wrong and maybe you should go apologize, maybe you should go think about it. And I was like, my first reaction, like anybody else, would be, excuse me, what? And then I sat with it and I was like, wait a minute, okay. Does this person's opinion matter to me? Okay, yeah, it does. They're a friend. Okay. I'm gonna let myself process the fact that I'm offended and frustrated and defensive and maybe a little angry. It's totally fine, totally normal. I'm gonna take a few minutes to breathe into that feeling. And then I'm gonna ask myself, what am I making this mean about me? Because a lot of times when we get criticized, we have shame and humiliation. and we make it mean that we have done something wrong or that we are wrong. And so we tend to come from this defensiveness when we have this, I'm being called out and I'm being wrong. And so even just knowing that is like a level of self-awareness that most people do not have. Having that knowledge that, oh, I am having a feeling right now because I have been called out. Okay, what am I making this mean about me? Maybe I'm making this mean I'm a terrible person. Maybe I'm making this mean I'm awful and everybody hates me, and I can't even begin to go back into that place and try to fix it. So even just noticing what am I making this mean right now can help you separate the story from who you actually are, because you can change at any moment, right? You can decide, I'm going to make this mean that this is a place that I can grow. This is a place that I can level up in some way and see my own inner failings and learn and process better and go in and make amends and do the right thing, even if I fuck it up first. I'm going to make failure not mean that I'm a terrible, awful fuck up and that nobody will ever love me and I'm horrible and I should just die. That's what my brain does. It's like, really? Okay. Okay. Who here has never had imposter syndrome? You look at me like you don't know what that is. Do you know what that is? No? So I was in academia for a long time, and what I saw is that most people are so in their brains and so in what they think they know, but they have this idea that everybody around them, or who is where they want to go, knows more than they do.
Oh, okay, yes.
And everybody thinks that. Like, there are so few people. I've met exactly one person who's like, oh no, that's never happened to me. And I'm like, also maybe a little bit of a sociopath. That's okay. Totally normal also. A version of normal. So, go ahead. Yeah, types of people who can have imposter syndrome. All of the smart, successful people who you think have their shit too. And pretty much everybody around you. Even if they've been in it for a long time. So, imposter syndrome is just a total jerk. Like, this is just your brain being a jerk. And this is just another part of this, like, confidence and self-belief hydra, right? And it's the part of you that really, really, truly believes that everybody else knows something that you don't know, has something that you don't have, is more qualified than you are. And it's just BS because everybody thinks that. It does not matter. And here's the truth, is that the higher up you go, like women who are CEOs have the worst imposter syndrome. And they're there. They're in the room. They are in the arena. They are doing the hard thing. And they're still looking at everybody going, oh my God, everybody else is smarter than me. I'm totally going to fuck this up. Oh my God, I have to perform. And a lot of it is, some of it is based in truth because women tend to have to overperform in order to be seen as performing equally. Right? So, but that situation doesn't make the imposter syndrome true. Because your brain can change. You can learn more. You can become more qualified. You can take actions to become more qualified. You can choose to show up differently. Right?
Or you can decide that you already have the expertise
That you do.
that you do have.
Yeah. You can
And say,
decide to
"F
step
you."
into that. Yeah.
And say, F you to imposter syndrome.
And one way that I like to teach to manage this situation is to collect evidence of the opposite. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But what that looks like to me is making a list. All the things that I've ever accomplished, all the things that I'm good at, and everything that I've ever tried, even if I failed. And that's arguably the most important list because it proves to your brain over and over and over again, I have courage. I can be brave. I can try things even if I fail. Okay. And I want to say, collect your wins and kudos and brags and all the nice things people say about you. So like every time somebody says something nice about social media about me, I take a screenshot. I have a file in my Google Drive. So that because my brain, like our brains just want to sit in the negative. It is what has kept us alive and kept us safe, right? And so my brain always goes to, yeah, but so-and-so doesn't like me. Yeah, but that person was mean to me. yeah, but that person gave me just a side eye, like, what did I even do, right? And so if I'm having a really hard day, and at this point it has to be really, really hard, but I go to this Google Drive folder and I pull up all of these things, all of these nice things that people have said about me, all of the nice things people have said to me. I like make notes and take pictures and stick them in this file so that I'm showing my brain evidence to the contrary. Like, oh no, wait. There has maybe been a time and a place in the recent past in which I was a decent person, okay? So hear it. So, here's the other piece. The reason that we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. And when we are comparing ourselves, this is straight like compare and despair, right? FOMO. I'm doing it wrong because so-and-so's life is so curated and so beautiful. They must be having the most best ever life ever. And it just isn't true. And we all know that intuitively. And yet, when it's what you see over and over and over, day in and day out, all the time, it can get very hard for our brains to remember that. So remember that you are just seeing most people's good side. Some people talk about the things that are not going right. I do. I think that makes me more relatable, more real. I own all the icky stuff. It doesn't bother me. A lot of people don't do that. But if you are stuck in compare and despair, if you are constantly measuring yourself against other people, one of the biggest things that I like to tell people to do, because this is the perfect way to sap your own self-confidence and make yourself want to stay small, is to turn off your social media. Take it off your phones. Social media is the worst about this, by the way. Turn off Instagram, turn off your Facebook, turn off notifications. If you're running for office and you have someone you can hand all that to, hand it all to somebody else. You don't need to see that. It's not helping. And read that list of all the things that you're good at, all the things you've ever accomplished, all the things that you've tried hard at, even if you fail. Okay. Let's talk about perfection and visibility, because they kind of go hand in hand.
Someone had, I was just thinking
Yes.
about the perfection.
A
I have
lot of
some of
us
that
do,
as well.
right? How are we on time? Do we need a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
You want to take a short break? Okay.
Yeah. Does that sound good?
Often one of the biggest roadblocks and the ways that we sap our own confidence. And it's fascinating because this is something that we do to ourselves that other people do not do to us. And so part of it is, a big part of it even, is cultural. Like we have this culture of winners or losers. We have this culture of it's the best ever. Like nobody aims for be good enough. Nobody aims for mediocrity. Nobody aims for C+ work or B+ work. Everybody wants A+, right? Even my dad, like when I would come home from school and have A's, well, why is it not an A+? Because I got other things to do, God, right? But having this culture and this mentality, when we internalize this and turn it on ourselves, we shut ourselves down and we make it very hard to get anything ever done to completion and out into the world. There's a saying that it goes something like, the best ideas in the world are in the graveyard because they never come out of us. And this is one of the reasons. Some of us are just scared, right, of being seen and scared of putting our stuff out there. And some of us have such demanding standards that anything less than perfection, less than good enough in our mind is ever good enough. And so that's why some people can write a book in 30 days and some people never finish a book that they've been working on for 15 years. Because they have this voice in the back of their head going, well, you need to revise that sentence one more time. Nope, that paragraph's not good enough. Nope, that whole chapter, just toss it, just burn it, right? So I think that we have a really unique opportunity as people who are running for office and who are in campaigns to change our little piece of culture. And what I mean by that is when we have such demanding standards of the people who run for office, how do we ever have, are able to let them off the hook or have any sort of wiggle room for them to be imperfect human beings? because we all are imperfect human beings. And every single one of you is going to make a mistake if you campaign for anything at all, ever. Even working behind the scenes, you're gonna mess something up. And letting that be okay, allowing people the space and the grace and the compassion to make mistakes and to make amends, like it obviously depends on how they make amends. If they continue to fuck it up, like that's a whole different story, right? But allowing people the space to be imperfect, allowing yourself to do B+ work, sometimes just to get it out of you, right? Is so important. And having the grace and the compassion to allow other people to be human, I think is such a revolutionary way for us to change the way that we all operate in the world. And that starts with ourselves. Having grace, having compassion. Going for it anyway, even if we know we're probably gonna fail, we're probably gonna fuck this up. Because we only try the things that we know we're gonna be good at, that locks us in a really tight box. And you never grow, and you never learn. So, let B+ be good enough. Keep learning. Apologize if you need to. Make amends, do it the right way. Do it in a way that, if you've offended somebody, go to them and ask, what do I need to do to make this right? What do you need to hear from me? Where do I need to grow in order to make this be really sincere? Fail often. And I hear your brains right now. What the fuck? No! Why? On purpose? Yes, on purpose. Every day. Even if it's tiny. Because if you can get your brain used to the concept of I'm going to fail and it's going to be okay, I'm not going to die. Clearly, don't fail by driving your car into a roadblock. That's not what I mean. But the more you deliberately fail on purpose, the more you desensitize your brain to the idea that failure equals badness about you in some way. And I think that that's a really big thing, to be able to continually grow and continually level up. Whether it's, I'm gonna run for school board this year and then maybe state legislature next year. Not for you. You're like, girl, let me handle school board right now. But knowing that I'm gonna love myself no matter what, I'm gonna have compassion for my failures no matter what, even if the rest of the world thinks that I'm really, really fucked up. Because that is the only way that you come back, right? I mean, take a look at celebrities who have massive failures in the world. Everybody sees that. Hi, Britney, 2007, hi. Like, right? She freaked out, shaved her head, went nuts, took a bat to somebody's car, right? The only way that she came back was through therapy, yes. But a lot of what's included in that, the rehab, is grace and self-compassion and forgiving yourself when you mess up. That's a huge piece of growing as a human being. And then the last one is to feel your feelings. And what I mean by that is that often when we fail, when we're not perfect, when we're not good enough, we have that shame and humiliation come back. And so when you can sit with identifying that you have a feeling, oh God, I'm in a shame spiral, my brain is freaking out right now. When you can identify, okay, I feel shame. Sometimes even just saying it to yourself or out loud, oh, I have this feeling, helps to take a fair amount of the punch out of it. Because that feelings just want to be acknowledged. They just want to be heard. They're kind of like little people in the back of your head, like waiting, like, hey, you have a feeling, don't avoid me. And so when we can just hear it and say it, okay, I see you, shame. I see you, humiliation. I see you, anger and hurt and outrage and frustration. And take a deep breath into it. And the key here, one is yes, to feel your feelings. Two is to not attach any meaning or thoughts to the feeling. So it might look like, hi, shame, I see you, thank you. I'm not going to make this mean that I'm a failure, that I'm a loser, that everybody hates me. I'm just gonna sit with this feeling for a minute and breathe. These feelings are like waves. They can move through us, Or we can throw up roadblocks and resist. And everything that we resist comes crashing through one way or another. It might look like road rage. When I avoid feelings, I'm very angry on the road. And then I'm like, why am I so angry? Why are these people so terrible? Oh, wait. Okay, I'm having some feelings. I need to think about them for a minute. And just breathe and let them go. And they will. It's when we attach thoughts that we make them worse. Questions? How are we doing? Making sense? Okay. So, when it comes to public speaking, especially when we are live or in front of an audience, we cannot take back or edit anything that we might say. Our brains get very freezed up. So, be willing to suck. It's that B+ word. Be willing to fail. Your willingness to suck is what will take you everywhere that you ever want to go in every part of your life. But it comes from that willingness to put yourself out there, fail, feel your feelings about failure, ask, what am I making this mean? Is it really true? Who do I want to be instead? Thoughts?
That makes me want to run out of the room.
I know. That's why I picked that one. What are your thoughts about being willing to suck? Why would this be so scary? If you know you're going to mess it up.
Well, it's always about, you know, what people are saying about me afterward. You know. So,
And what are they going to say?
not qualified, not smart enough,
And what you're talking about?
hasn't done enough, yeah. Talking about, yeah.
So when it comes to public speaking, noting down, like you might, I feel super limited by a written out, here's what I'm going to say, because that forces you to stick to your paper. And when you get nervous, when our brains get nervous, we're like, here's what I know, right? So a couple of things you can do is bullet points, notes, practice, like a mofo. Practice in front of a whole room. Practice in front of your friends. If it's camera, what I like to do and have done several times is create a private Facebook group and go live. You can just invite yourself or even a close friend or a campaign manager if you want them looking at your videos, and go live and do your video interviews there. Say your speeches, do your stump speeches, right? Because that can be so scary knowing, oh my God, 50 people are going to be watching me. I don't even know where do I look, who do I talk to, what am I saying if I mess it up. So like gives you an opportunity to go live on camera, feel that pressure, and fuck it up. Seriously, fuck it up. That'd be bad. So you can fix it. Fix what you don't know is wrong, right? And then the last piece is this is something Mel Robbins talks about, I don't know if y'all heard of her, but the way that our body processes excitement and nervousness is the same. What's different is what we're thinking. And so before you step on the stage, if you have thoughts, oh my God, I'm going to fuck this up, I'm totally going to bomb, I'm going to say the wrong thing, I'm going to forget everything to say, everybody's going to judge me, I'm going to fail, I have to run. What's happening in your body is the same feeling if you said, I have so much to tell them. I am so excited about what they're going to learn. I'm so excited for what I have to share. I'm going to change their lives today. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to kick ass. The thoughts are different, the feelings are the same. And what's happening in your body is the same. So all you have to do backstage is switch. When you hear your brain, oh shit, take a deep breath. Let's switch to what's going to go right. Yes.
I was just gonna make an observation, and another thing would be to make the microphone your friend. I see over and over again, people, we don't normally speak over a PA system, and when you're nervous, suddenly the mic becomes an enemy.
Mhm.
Either say, oh, I don't need this, and then nobody can hear you. Discomfort about how to speak on a mic, and I used to have to introduce shows, and I didn't want to do it, and I had to learn. I spent a lot of time on stage working with the sound guys. How do you approach the mic? How do you use the mic? Watching other people on stage who were professionals at it and how they did it, and became more and more comfortable on stage, and became more effective as a concert promoter, because I'd have people in the grocery store coming up to me and saying they were at the show Friday night and what a great job I had. And I thought, God, if you only knew. You know? But the mic is it's a mechanical skill, and it has to be practiced. And most people look at a mic like they've never seen it before, which probably they haven't, and it really adds to the anxiety.
Yeah. And practicing in that way is really helpful too. And this is something that I learned from doing acting, is that when you are super hyper focused on yourself and your brain and what you think, your energy stays right here, because you are in straight up freak out, right? What's more compelling is to put your energy in the back of the room, to fill up the space. Have any of y'all watched Knock Down the House yet? There's a segment when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is talking about, she's actually doing her first debate with her primary, the guy that she challenged in New York, on TV, and is like, holy shit, this is happening, it's happening today, okay. And she runs through this litany of all of these things that she believes, and she's like, take up the space, take up space, take up space, take up space. And it's hyping up her energy level so that she fills the room. It gets her outside of her head. And I was like, she's doing the things! I'm like, yay, yes. But yeah, like when you are focused on the other people in the room and practicing that way. So like if you were to practice in a room like this, you would stand at the front, but you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be focused on you. You would focus on the back of the room. Because you're imagining the people who are standing back there. Am I reaching them? Do they hear me? Do they understand what I'm saying? Am I resonating with them? How can I make my presence bigger? How can I take up more space in the room instead of less? Because when you practice in that energy, you show up in that energy. If you practice like this, you stay here, right? That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It really does.
And then, okay, so here are some more. No, I guess those are what I covered, sorry. See, I got very involved, I totally forgot where I was. Write down what you want people to feel about what you have to say. So you can think about it as, what do you want them to know? How do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do afterwards? Know, feel, and do. Especially when we're speaking on a stump, right? I want you to vote. Here's what I want you to know about where I stand. Here's how I want to make you feel about my platform. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to vote for me. Or give me money. And when you are constantly checked into your why, you are constantly inspiring yourself and remembering, this is why I'm doing this. I know candidates who think about their why before they go up and speak, and they know what their stump speech is. They know the 3 or 4 different versions that they're going to run, but they're so tapped into their why, and they're so inspired by themselves, and that's not an egotistical thing to do. That is 100% believing in yourself and why you're doing what you're doing. They're so inspired by themselves and about the change they want to make and about the community they want to change that they just get up there and it just rolls out of them. Stacey Abrams is a great example. Like, she's a powerhouse no matter what, no matter where she's at, because she's so in touch with why, of why it's important. And again, create a Facebook group with you and a trusted friend or campaign advisor, and practice being on camera, practice speaking. Make big mistakes, lots of them. Fuck it up. And then channel excitement instead of nervousness. Okay, now for the fun part. Shifting the identity. So we talked a little bit before about thoughts create your beliefs, beliefs create your identity. Okay, can you even see that? That's a dead hydra. So we started with the hydra with mini heads. Now we're going to cut it off at the trunk. Okay. So, I gave y'all some handouts, a handout, I don't know why I keep saying some. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to write and do a thought download. So, I want you to think about, it can be running for office. If you're not going to run for office, something else that you want in your life, some other place that you want to step up and be different, be a different and better version of you. And I want you to think about what you believe about yourself now and what's possible for you or not possible for you right now. And that might include what thoughts keep you from running. And be very specific, I am, I can, I can't, I don't, I do, right? What thoughts make you feel anxious, frustrated, stuck, angry? Just write them all down. Y'all need another minute, or are you feeling good? Okay. You skip to the next slide when it's coming through. Okay. Okay, anybody want to share with the class? So what's the situation? What are you thinking about?
I was just chilling here, just thinking about running.
Okay. So what were the thoughts that came up thinking about running for office?
Pretty much, just thinking about me and who I am. I do believe anything is possible. I think I'm that rare person who lives on positive energy. If anything, one recurring thought or anxiety revolves more around what if I win, what happens then. A lot of people fear failure, and I don't. I don't fear success either, but I get anxious just thinking about the possibilities.
Okay, so what might happen, what makes you anxious about winning? Because that's not terribly uncommon.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid of failure and success at the same time.
It's just, for this, it would be something I hadn't done before. It would be a job that I haven't done specifically.
So the thought is, I haven't done that before?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? What if I can't?
Again, this is probably a little bit just by the nature of my background. I've been in law enforcement for 20 years, so cops think a little bit different than other folks. Failure is not an option a lot of times in the big picture. And little battles, okay, but I'm just not even driven by that at all.
But what is it, what if I win and then I can't do it? And
No,
then I
it's just-
can't do the job?
No, it's just what happens
No,
next.
it's not that.
What does
Okay,
that,
it's more
what
around,
does that
more
look
the
like?
anxiety of
Yeah.
those steps.
What do I do, you know? Do I have this power? Do I have that, you know?
Okay.
Who do I
These are all
bring along
researchable.
with me?
Yeah, these are things you can find out.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's different than like actual fear.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Whereas actual fear. Yes.
So I've got, I kind of think I'd be the best person for the job, but then I'm not sure what others might think so, you know.
Okay.
Feel insecure about that. Sort of afraid to put myself out there just because it's uncomfortable, what we were talking about before. Part of that is I'm not very good with names and faces, so I feel like if I'm trying to go out there and meet people and then I've already met the same people and then but I don't remember that I talked to them, like that's like a big fear of mine. I don't like the idea of asking for money from people. I don't like that idea. I'm like overwhelmed by the responsibilities of the job itself. Just that I'm kind of doing it now anyway, but there are a lot of huge responsibilities. I don't like talking about myself. It's a huge commitment to run and time consuming and have a family, responsible kids. So I mean, it always in the back of my head is like I really want to do this job, but I don't want to have to run for it. I mean, I'd love to just get appointed and I'm in the job, and then and then I'm the incumbent, and then it's a little different.
Just give it to me.
Right.
Make it easy.
And I sort of feel like if I talk about it, if I put it out there that there's this open seat, then other people are going to know that there's an open seat, and then they're going to want to run, and then I have competition.
If I talk about it, there will be competition.
And democracy.
Right? but
Never mind,
then I
just
really have to
like-
run. Well, then I really have to run as opposed to,
Mm-hmm. Staying safe,
flying in.
flying under the radar. Yeah. Anybody else? What else comes up for you? Y'all are deliberately not making eye contact with me. It's fine. Anybody else? Come on, give it to me.
It's so embarrassing.
Why?
Because I'm terrified.
Okay. Why?
And even writing all of those thoughts down, though, actually, your visualization of your grandma is sort of helping me, I think, the most right now, just because it's so irrational. Like my fears are just so irrational.
Yeah.
And I need to shrink them and put them shrink them and put them away.
Give me one.
So, okay, it's just terrified of presenting myself in public and terrified of being dumb and being refuted. Yeah.
Say something?
Yeah.
With some of the people we have in office now, but it's not. You know, I look at who our education secretary is, and who our president is, and some of the dumb things that come out of their mouths. It's like, at this point, anybody can run for anything, and nobody's
Anything
stupid.
goes.
So maybe that will help you, I don't know. I mean, between the two of them, we have the brain power and the IQ combined is probably 100. In my opinion. But, anybody in this room is definitely
Yeah.
better than what we have
Yeah.
running the show right now.
Okay, so the next part, I guess switch to the next one, is to visualize who you want to be instead. So write down all the thoughts that you want to think about the same situation instead. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What's possible? There's not a place in that. Okay, sorry.
So same page.
Yeah, if you have room or whatever you need to do.
That's all something?
So for example, if I were running for office and now I have the thoughts, I don't think I can do that, I'm not smart enough, I'm not qualified, I'm not capable. The vision of me that I might want to paint for myself is I can do the research to figure it out. I know who I am, I know what I stand for. I can 100% run for office and feel real good about it. I can handle anything anybody throws in my way. And you can even add things like, I'm becoming the kind of person who. And if that's too far, I believe it's possible for me to become the kind of person who. What you think about yourself now is essentially the obstacle thoughts to where you want to go. So remember the drawing that I had with the two stick figures and the cognitive dissonance. The things that you believe now are the things that are between you now and where you want to go, right? So I want to introduce you to the thought model. This is something that I do all day for myself and for my clients also. And this is on page 4 in your workbook if you want to look at that. But essentially, the circumstance is just the facts. It's totally neutral. And when you're doing, this is basically like the self-coaching model and how to coach yourself around the thoughts that you have that keep you stuck. And we'll do an unintentional model, which is your default thought, that default programming. And then the intentional model, which is the one that you want to move into gradually. What you want to believe about yourself. So, this process looks like this is the CTEFAR, sorry, I can't speak today, CTFAR. So, the top is the circumstance, just the facts. It's totally neutral. So, it does not include any of your opinions about it. So, that might be running for office. It might be a dollar amount in your checking account. It might be a coworker sent me an email, right? The thoughts are what cause you to have suffering, to feel pain. And they are what keep you stuck. So something can happen and I see it one way and you see it another. And if it's causing you to suffer, right? We're just seeing it different ways. We're having different thoughts about the thing. So the thoughts create feelings. And the feelings cause you to act or not act. If you're procrastinating, you're not acting, right? And the actions create the results. And the results tend to match, sometimes conceptually, sometimes actually, the original thought. So, like when we self-sabotage, we're proving to ourselves over and over again what we believe about ourselves already. Same thing. Okay? So let's look at an example. So the unintentional model, let's say the circumstance like we just did, running for office. If the thought comes up, I'm terrified, I can't do it, I will mess it up, it might make you feel anxious. I sort of did my own, like, if I were to put myself in someone else's shoes. I'm terrified, I can't do it, I will mess it up. And that makes me feel anxious, afraid, worried, stressed. The actions or not action that I might take then are to procrastinate, to not decide, to panic and spin internally, to scroll Facebook instead, we call that buffering, to go get some food or have a drink. Anything that we do externally to not feel the way that we're feeling is buffering. And the result is that you're still scared and you don't do it. Right? We flip to the next. So let's switch to the intentional, to who you want to be. Same circumstance, running for office. If the thoughts are, I can figure this out, I'm smart, I'm capable, I can learn, I can ask good questions, I can ask for help, I can do this, and that makes you feel calm and confident and motivated to figure it out, right? Then the actions that you might take are to plan, execute, ask for help, research, figure it out. And the result is that you do figure it out. Even if you lose. Kind of irrelevant. Okay. So, let's work a model. I did an unintentional, a blank one, and an intentional. But let's pull one of yours and work the thoughts. Who would like to get coached? Don't be scared. It's not going to be painful. Okay. I shared enough. Or somebody else. Somebody volunteers to review.
Andrew.
Okay. Okay, Andrew, what's the circumstance? What's the situation? Running for office?
Running for office.
All right. All right. And so give me your most painful default thought where you're at now. The one that's keeping you stuck.
I have not done enough to deserve to run for office.
Ooh. Is it I don't deserve to run for office? Or is it really I haven't done enough? We can use both.
Whichever one, I mean, that's,
We'll combine. Okay, I haven't done enough.
I haven't done enough yet.
Enough to deserve it. There we go. All right. Okay. So when you are, like, take a deep breath, really think that thought. Be present with that thought. How does that thought make you feel?
Shame.
And when you are feeling shame and having that thought, I haven't done enough to deserve it, what do you do or not do?
I research, telling myself that if I just had more information, I can convince myself one way or the other.
So when you're feeling shame, you research?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? What are you researching?
Oh,
What are you looking for?
in terms of what?
When you have the thought, I haven't done enough to deserve it and I feel bad. I have shame.
What am I looking
The
for?
reason, when you're researching, what are you looking for?
Other people that have run for this kind of office, what experience have they had?
So validation.
Yes.
What else? What do you do or not do?
Talk to people about it.
Okay.
Talk to people who I feel are smarter than I am. I guess would be a better way to put it.
Mm-hmm. What else?
try to convince myself that it doesn't matter.
That's coming from a different thought, though.
Is it?
I think so.
Okay.
If you were trying to convince yourself,
Well, it's the
What would you
cognitive
be- what
dissonance.
would you be thinking? Oh, you're still thinking I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you, okay.
Yeah.
My brain went to a totally different place, sorry. Try to convince someone. Okay. So, we're getting a little meta here. So, because you are focused on searching for validation in a variety of different ways and trying to convince yourself, you're repeating to yourself that you haven't done enough to deserve it.
Yes.
And you aren't taking action that would prove to yourself that you do deserve it.
Correct.
So the result is that you're doing a lot of stuff, but not the things that would be enough for your mind, right?
Right.
I'm done enough.
Wow.
Right?
That is all just all the way around.
Ooh, do you have a paper towel? I thought I got one, but maybe I do. Oops.
I'll go get one.
So, that's kind of, how does that make you feel?
Not great.
Not great. It's kind of a painful thought, right?
Yeah.
And to see it like
I used to be.
just creating.
I mean, I hope everyone gets something from me doing this, because this is not super enjoyable.
Oh, there's one.
Very sorry.
I got one, thank you.
That's a permit.
Oh, there. Is that gonna work? I knew there was one in here.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. So,
You're not enjoying this, Andy?
Does it look enjoyable?
Having therapy in front of all of your, some of your
I've been to
closest friends
therapy
and
before. This
strangers.
is much tougher than therapy.
Really?
Because it's one-on-one therapy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Audience.
Come on, we're all friends.
And you're protected by privilege.
It's not videotaped.
okay. But I want you to know that there are a lot of people who feel that way. So, we see you. Thank you for volunteering. Okay, what do you want to think about running for office instead? What's a more powerful thought? What did you write something down
Yeah.
that you want to think of?
That I can bring character and integrity to this office, and I can serve the people of this constituency well.
Okay. So I bring character? What else? Say that again.
Bring character and integrity to the office,
Integrity. And that you're a good servant?
and I can serve the community well.
Serve well. That is a much more powerful thought. Okay. How does that thought make you feel?
Proud.
Can you believe that right now?
Yes.
How else does it make you feel? Or is that like the core of it?
Energized.
It would me too. Anything else?
Capable.
And when you are feeling proud and energized and capable about running for office, and you are believing, because you can now, that you bring character, integrity, and can serve that office well, what do you do?
Research.
Research what?
I research how to do this job. How to
You're
do
not
it.
looking for validation anymore.
Right, I research how to do it well. What the community needs.
Come to this class.
I come to this class.
Mhm.
Excellent, thank you.
Get educated.
Yes.
What else?
I do stuff in the community.
Yeah. You show up,
Yeah.
right? You went from being in here to being out there.
Right.
And the result is that you do bring character and integrity, and you serve well.
Right.
Because you've made that decision to do so.
Right.
Yeah. That feels a lot better.
It does.
Like, I feel like I can breathe up here.
And I want to be perfectly clear, I have to, that when I was like, wow, that was not about you.
Oh, yeah.
That was because I completely recognized myself in that cycle.
As I figured kind of a lot of
Yeah,
people probably.
yeah. So that was a moment of like, for me, it didn't have anything to do with you.
Thank you for clarifying.
If you really wanna blow your own mind, put time in the circumstance and the thought, I don't have enough time. I had that one shown to me the other day, and I was like, oh God. All the ways that I'm creating that I don't have enough time in the world. Okay, next please. Okay, so this is a metaphor that I like to use a lot, and you lawyers might argue with me about which side is which, but that's okay. I respect that. So essentially what we're doing here is we are stacking evidence. So it's like your brain is a courtroom on the inside, because there are different parts of you, right? You argue with yourself a lot, right? And there's a part of you that's watching that happen. So the defense part of you that's arguing is looking for, like, showing your accomplishments, showing the good parts of you, showing what's possible. The prosecution tends to just be louder, because our brains are still caveman brains. They're still looking at what's negative and what's gone wrong to keep us safe, right? So it looks at all of the things you've ever done wrong, your current identity, all mostly negative, based in what's probable. So it's based on the past. And your defense is based on what's possible, on the future that you want to create. And then the judge part of you, the part that's watching this happen, makes the decision every day. And sometimes every hour. Look at things happen, right? And the judge decides who it's going to believe. And so our intention is to stack the deck for the defense, so that we keep moving forward, so that we don't stay stuck. Because the prosecution's like, look, I have this giant stack of evidence. I know who you are, I know what you've done, I know who you've been, I know how awful you are, I know what a person you are, I know that thing you did in the summer of 1998, right? It's got all of this evidence that would very much like you to stay in the safety zone. And if we're trying to get to whatever is next for us, what we really want for us, we have to get out of that comfort zone. So, next please. Here's how you start to stack your defense. You create a confidence vault. And we talked a little bit about this. But I have a journal that I add to every couple of days. You can also do like a Google Drive folder with all of your kudos, the nice things people say about you. That can count as this. But what you're looking for is what you've accomplished. And I mean in every part of your life. You birthed a baby, that's a big deal. You got a master's degree, you finished college, you finished high school, you finished 8th grade. It all counts. Everything counts. Everything you have ever accomplished. And then what you're good at. Baking, knitting, hiking, running, basketball, football, everything. Public speaking, whatever. Teaching. And then the third list is what I've tried hard at even if I failed. Cheerleading. Failed at that like 15 times. I just stopped cheering. But it was fun to try, even though I failed a lot. What has been fun to try out even if you fail? Cross country, I'm not a runner.
Drawing.
Drawing.
Swing dancing.
Swing dancing. Huh. I'm not much of a dancer either, I feel you. What else?
Trying to pick up yo-yoing this year,
Oh yeah, that's hard.
3 weeks.
Yeah. But you tried it, right? So, this is one piece of your defense. And then the next piece is creating a belief plan for yourself. And what I mean by that is that the reason that affirmations don't work is because we don't believe them. And so if you have a list of all these things you want to believe, but you can't possibly believe them because of all of the cognitive dissonance, that's not going to work. So you create a belief plan instead. So you create things, some of them are going to be things you can believe now that are better than your default negativity programming, right? And then some of them are things that you want to work into believing in the future. Like, I totally ran for office and smashed it, whatever. I won. I can speak in public like a mom, whatever. And then it can even be just like 5 or 6 statements. They make these sticky index cards now, and I have them on my monitor, and it's like, this is my belief plan for this month. And I update it regularly, and I read it to myself every day. Okay, I can believe that today. I can believe that for this hour. I can believe that for these next 5 minutes. And I on purpose read it to myself over and over and over until I believe it, until I'm living into it. And then the next month I create a new list. And if I have one I didn't pick up all the way, I add it to the top. Right? So you might have to baby step with, I believe it's possible to become someone who runs for office with confidence. I believe it's possible to be someone who enjoys running, to be athletic, to enjoy working out, whatever, right? And then the next step forward is I am becoming someone who likes waking up at 6 a.m. I hear my brain going, whatever. So I might have to step back. I believe it's possible to become someone who enjoys getting up at 6 a.m. That might happen. I could try that today, tomorrow. And then read and feel the feelings created by those thoughts on purpose every day. Like I schedule in time for this to happen for me every morning. I do it over coffee. And then, this is the key piece. This is what creates that next version identity of you, is to decide to believe it. And that's where the baby stepping helps, right? I believe it's possible. I am becoming. But you want to pick thoughts that you can believe right now to make that process a little bit easier. Changing your beliefs is just about deciding to change and deciding to believe that it's possible. So, good questions to ask the brain. It might be true, but is it helpful to think about it this way? So I hear this from clients all the time. Oh my God, but I have to raise $100,000 and I only have $1,000. Oh my God. Okay, $1,000 in the bank might be true. Is it helpful for us to freak out about it? Who do I want to be in this situation, in this moment, in this life journey? Who do I want to be right now? What do I need to believe about myself and what's possible in order to be who I want to be? Or to be more purposeful, or to be more calm, or to be more confident? What do I need to believe about what's possible? Okay. What if I didn't think this was a problem? That's a brain breaker. That $100,000 again, you only have 1,000. What if you didn't believe it was a problem? It's not a problem. That's a fixable solution, right? It has a solution. It's a fixable problem, right? And my favorite is, what's a more powerful thought? Okay, so we are switching a little bit out of our brains and coming into being the CEO of your campaign. So, where we are on time. Oh, okay. So, we often assume that we have to do everything. And we don't. And that's where, was it 3 weeks ago? The last session talked about hiring the right people and who to hire and what those roles are. So, knowing that you're going to be delegating, you might have to do a fair amount of work at the beginning, right? Because you have to hire all of those people. But knowing I'm going to be delegating so much of this, I'm going to be defining campaign roles. Some of them are predefined, right? But I'm going to come from a place of, what are my leadership values? What's important to me? And do y'all know Sally Harrell? Of Sally Harrell, she's state senator, right? She has a values card that is a laminated piece of paper that she has on her desk in the legislature. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? No? So she has listed, this is what I value, this is why it's important to me. So that when she's reading bills, when she's taking a stand, she can come back to, this is why it's important to me, this is why. And you can do the same thing inside your campaign before it even begins. This is the culture I want to create. Which I think is a huge fucking deal right now. Creating and changing campaign culture. I want to hire people with integrity. I want to hire people who aren't going to politically climb within my campaign and throw other people under the bus and be jerks. Like, you can say that right at the beginning. I'm not going to do that. If I catch you doing it, you're out. And another thing that I think is super important is creating the container for people to be authentic with you and with each other. And has anybody read Dare to Lead by Brene Brown? No? Highly recommended if you want to lead other people, if you want to lead a team of people. She talks about being, modeling vulnerability and modeling authenticity and modeling integrity. She also talks about how to create the space and create the container for other people to do that too. And one of the great examples she used was this corporation that, their market numbers were down. Things were not good. Everybody was kind of panicking and freaking out. And so the CEO called everybody in and said, look, we're all freaking out. We're all panicking. But we need to have conversations about what the next move are. And we need to have them with honesty and authenticity. And we need to be able to share and talk about what's happening. So what needs to happen for you to feel safe to have this conversation right now? And I think that's such a powerful question, and it puts yourself in this leadership place that people respect that. People are more likely to be authentic. And they're gonna tell you, I need y'all to check your judgments at the door, because I might say some really embarrassing stuff. I have a lot of fear. Can we not criticize each other today? Right? That's so powerful. And when you're truly modeling that, man, it changes everything. So I have questions for y'all. What kind of culture around campaigning and around candidacy do you see now that you want to change? Yes.
I come from Oconee County, and I've been to their meetings, Democratic Committee meetings for a little while now, and what I'm so confused about is the people that are, obvious Democrats. They still hide their Democratic Party leanings because we're in such a minority and we're in a small community, and how people talk when you're in a small town, But, it's like, okay, they have these bumper stickers, okay, that you can put on your car, bumpers. I'm an Oconee Democrat or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody puts them on. I did because I'm a little loony, but I put them on my car. But all the members, do you know what they were asking for the other? They were saying, put your bumper stickers on a piece of magnet so we can magnetize it to our car and instantly take it off when we go to work or something like that. It's crazy stuff.
So more authenticity. More being real about what you stand for. What else? Y'all have all worked on campaigns in some capacity, yeah? What sort of behaviors did you see people do that you wish they wouldn't do? That you wish could be different? Knowing what you want to see and what you don't want to see
Yes.
is absolutely critical before you ever throw your hat in the ring. What do I want to create? Because you're essentially creating a tiny little company. Some of them really big companies, right? Multi-million-dollar budgets. But you're creating a tiny little company and you're the CEO. You get to decide. It's your freaking name and face on everything, right? You make the decision. The buck stops with you. Yeah, if your campaign would never do that, like you take that into your hiring. We don't do this. Ever. If you're considering it, you come talk to me. Okay? Yes.
This may not relate, but I actually volunteered for a campaign for the first time ever, and going in for the first task, there were a group of us, we were all first timers, and we just felt totally overwhelmed by being thrown into the mix. And I think maybe with new volunteers, new campaign workers, do like a meeting training just to explain to them how things work. I mean, there was this app I was told to download, and I'm not technologically savvy and being some older people, we were just like overwhelmed with all the stuff.
Yeah.
And then a lot
I've
of
heard that a
people
lot
didn't
last
come
year.
back, so.
An onboarding, some sort of onboarding training.
Some sort of, just, even if it's 30 minutes, just
Yeah.
show us how to use all these tools. And then
And know what's expected, and where all the resources are.
I was kind of shocked by what all the campaign rules were. We have to mention 2 candidates, and then you have to do this, and you have to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, here's your script.
Here are all the expectations.
Right. So
That's
that was a
super
little
important.
overwhelming, but just training for your new people, and I think we're seeing a new wave of novices get involved. And that's a good thing, but they need a little help to do it right.
You skip to the next. Sorry, I know we're kind of running out of time. So, integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's watching. And having integrity as a leader, and especially as a candidate, I think is one of the most important things, one of the most important pieces of culture that I want to create. Because I don't know about y'all, but I'm real tired of these people who say one thing to somebody and say something completely different to the people who are spending them lots of money. So, knowing, it kind of comes back to those values. Like knowing ahead of time, what are my values? What do I value? What's important to me? Even coming down to when you hire people, are their values, do they match mine? Do I feel like I can trust this person? Even if they look good on paper. If you, like if they look good on paper, but you have a vibe about them that's not right. Maybe they're not the best fit, even if they look great on paper. So I've seen this happen time and time again, where a campaign manager will say, no, this person, but they don't vibe with the candidate. And they've gotta match with you. It's gotta feel right, like the right fit to you. This is where I wanted you to say anything that you might have to say. Okay. Does that resonate for you? Okay.
Nothing I can put on the spot.
That's totally fine. Okay, next one. And then another one of my values that I certainly want to see more candidates have is transparency. Whether it's numbers, whether it's what they're doing, whether it's what they stand for, whether it's who are they taking money from. What are your thoughts about that? Transparency. I think it looks like being honest, even if it's hard or it feels dumb. What else? One of the
Distrust is like the biggest thing.
Well, and I think it's super easy for resentments to foster when you're not totally transparent. Brene Brown talks about this in the other one, Daring Greatly. So she was running this big project and had a couple of projects going on. She had a big team meeting and said, okay, we're switching focus from these 2 things and we're gonna focus 100% on this one because the deadline's coming up and that's what we're moving on to. And then she started to move on. And one of her people said, wait a minute, can we go back a second? I'm making that mean, this comes back to that meaning making, right? I'm making it mean that shifting goals means that my work and my project are not valuable. Can we talk about it? And having that level of authenticity and transparency and ownership of, hey, this is making me feel a particular way, let's talk about it, is so powerful. And creating that culture is so powerful. So that you can go back and say, oh, this is not about your work. Your work is fantastic. The deadline has shifted on this other project and we need all hands on deck. What else are you making it mean about you? Or about your value, or about your contribution? Let's go ahead and head that off now so that there's not resentment later. Okay. And then finally, vulnerability is the core, the heart, and the center of meaningful human experience. And to me, that doesn't mean being vulnerable with everybody. It means being vulnerable with people who are in your circle of trust. Just like you would listen to the criticism of certain people, but not of other people. You would be vulnerable with certain people, perhaps not other people. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't always be transparent. but that doesn't mean that they have to know every single underlying thing that's happening, right? So knowing who you are and what you stand for is going to make you a good leader. Being vulnerable and being honest and being real, being in your integrity and your values, and being transparent about what's going on is also what makes a good leader. Thoughts, questions? That is it. Do we want to go back to the thought work and talk? That is all I have. Thank you for coming. This was so fun. Thank you for participating.
Alright. So I'll email the PowerPoint to everybody, so you'll have it to look back on. And we'll see you next Sunday for campaign communication strategy. And I'll just say that if I do decide to run for Board of Education, I'm gonna have to have you on retainer.
Totally possible.